I'm Miranda Rake.
And I'm Sarah Wheeler, and this is The Mother of It All, where we take on motherhood through the lens of culture and culture through the lens of motherhood. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Like just bonkers, man.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't you know how I feel about the culture of talking about how busy we are. And yet that is an accurate depiction of my life right now. But it's good. I'm reminding myself that like the best tool for me in like kind of scattered times is super intense loud music.
Oh.
And so I do feel like more centered because before I got on here, I put on the vinyl single that I found, just a total gem in a stack of crap. That is it's all the Jodeci song Fiendin' from like the 90s. It's like literally 7 versions of it.
Whoa.
And I just crank that up and it's like, 35 minutes of just pure emotional release.
Nice. It's like Freebird, but it's
time.
something else.
Yeah, it's somebody, it's how somebody feels that way about Freebird. I guess a lot of people. For me, that's Fiendin', 7 Fiendins.
Yeah.
So right now I'm good. That's
one
my long,
live Freebird is like 7 Freebirds,
Is that true?
Yes.
I've never heard one live Fiendin'. If I had a time machine, like first I would kill Hitler, and then I would go back and attend a Jodeci concert before they broke up. So, those are in that order. Probably in that order.
We have to have, if you have the time machine, does it matter what order you do it in,
Right. Like the consequences of Hitler are here, right? What's a few hours?
I mean, what if you kill Hitler and then there's no Jodeci?
Right. The butterfly effect.
Right.
Great. One of our finest Ashton Kutcher movies. And obviously a very important concept that is true. Yeah. I mean, right. And would you accept that trade-off?
I mean, yeah, it's probably worth it. But I think,
as a Jew, I'm conflicted. No.
Before we go down that path, that slippery slope anymore,
you don't want to follow me further?
No, I do. I do. I had a question about so we've been sick so much this year. I think everybody
you have a cold again?
I do.
Or should I say again or still? I don't know what the
again. No, this is definitely a new
is.
one.
And
I was. Do you read the your local epidemiologist Substack?
I do. Yes.
It's like sometimes I read it against my better judgment because it's
she
like
was our angel in COVID, and she still has things to say. Yes,
she's amazing. I think sometimes it's like, do I want to know that flu is surging? Like, I don't think it's better if I don't know, right?
I think unless you have unless there is a high stakes medical, reason to be hyper aware of trending diseases, I would say no. But
right, like if I'm going to put my kid in an N95 every day at school,
right,
but I'm not. Because we don't have a reason for that,
right? Right.
But, so anyway, she tells me personally, by she tells me, I mean, I read her Substack the other day.
Your best friend.
Yeah, and
told you parasocially.
She told me that there's like a thing, like a virus that's like RSV that's going around called like HPMV or HMPV or something like that.
Is it HMV? Like the old, that's probably where I bought my first Jodeci album.
It's
not
4
to
letters.
Bring us back.
Okay. No, it's 4 letters. And anyway, I was like, I got this thing. And I was like, also like every cold is weird. Like, it's not like, I feel like it's such a gift when I get just like a regular cold where you're like, oh, I sneezed. And then it went to my chest for a couple days and it was 5 days.
I'm a little stuffy.
It's over. And I just don't get those anymore. I only get weird things. Like,
I don't think there are any normal colds anymore.
Weird.
It's only it's like lice. You know how like there's no more regular lice? They're all super lice.
We're scared.
That can't be killed.
Oh my God.
That's what
Yes.
colds are now.
Yeah, when I was reading about this one, because I mean, and I don't know if that's what I have, but I'm like, "Oh, I had been thinking RSV," but I was like, "I think we had RSV in, like, December, so it's weird that I have it again." And then she's like, "Here's this virus that's actually making the rounds." And I was like, "Oh, it's probably that." And so, totally self-diagnosed. Who cares anyway? Because there's no
Yeah,
treatment, but, like,
nobody cares.
it was kind of
I mean, I
interesting to
care.
read
I care.
about. It's, like, interesting and validating, and, like, it was like, "This virus was discovered in 2001," and you're like, what? Like, it's just I know there's new ones all the time, but it's just like it just feels so frustrating and
Are you,
irritating.
like, sad nobody told you for this long?
I just
What's
I think it feels so new. You know, like I'm just like, "Oh, damn it." Like, can't we just cap it? Can we be like, "This is it for viruses. We're at maximum. We can't have any new ones for 100 years." You know, like
Oh, okay.
that's what I
Yeah.
would like. That's my wish.
Okay, that's
Or we
sweet.
get like a more
Yeah.
powerful Tylenol that like I've been
Mm.
taking a lot of Sudafed and ibuprofen, but like I get like a turbocharged or
Right,
something.
if anything, I feel like we've made drugs less potent because, like, apparently
Yeah,
people get addicted to them. It's like you basically have to, like, take a class in order to get the good Sudafed,
it's true. I mean, I do
when in
stockpile that
fact
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, when in fact we need it more than ever.
It's
Yeah,
it is
this
a
is
miracle drug. When it wears off, I know it was working.
yeah,
But
I feel like all I do is see drug commercials. Like, that's
mm,
literally all if you I don't know if anyone out there, I know it's not you, Miranda, but watches regular
I'm gonna
television
open this.
or,
Sorry. Yeah,
these
no.
days, but it's all drug commercials, and none of them are for super colds, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I really am ready for that cold vaccine. Like, I know
Yeah.
they were working on it, and I'd like to have it, but
Do you think it's, because of a little thing we like to call "nobody cares about moms"?
ooh, and children.
And children, right, which
Yeah,
are mom's responsibility, so
moms and
therefore yeah,
children, probably.
right,
Yeah,
right.
except for
Like, if
other
people were
moms.
getting super dick colds, if there was a dick cold
Oh, there'd be
that,
so many
that
drugs for that.
that was resistant to our,
Yeah.
ibuprofen, don't you think they would have figured something out?
Oh, yeah, like, if you couldn't use it for, like, a week or
Your
something.
dick? Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, exactly, right, but
You're like
you're like, "Instead, I'm at home,
yeah.
my kids are at home, and I'm taking care of them."
Mhm.
And nobody yeah, mhm.
Cares.
Alright, let's get
It's just something to think about. I don't know,
yeah,
super
let's
meds
march.
or that's where I
We should
am, yeah.
march on this.
I know. I feel like we should let it die too. It's like I feel like a broken record in cold season where you're like, "Not again."
I don't wanna speak for the people on the other end of the line, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I think, like, mothers of youngish children cannot hear stories of, like, horrible colds enough. Like, it's like it
Yeah.
is we cannot be identified with enough. Like, the need is too great, so I don't think you should silence yourself. But
Thank you.
I do want to unsilence our guest.
Yes, I know, me too. Okay, well, we're very excited, that Kaitlyn Teer is with us again.
She's back.
She's back. Welcome, Kaitlyn.
Thank you for having me. Thrilled to
Thank
be back.
you. So, for anyone who doesn't remember, Kaitlyn is a writer in Bellingham, Washington. She's a person who also edits Joanna Goddard's Substack newsletter, Big Salad, which
Probably heard of it.
our podcast is a paid subscriber to.
Yeah.
Just
Let it be
Oh,
to
known.
throw that out there.
that's
We put
incredible.
it on the
Thank you.
podcast credit card. The
We
limit
really
is
did.
It's a
small, but
business
we
purchase. I get it.
We really did. So I first found Kaitlyn's writing a few years ago through a beautiful piece she wrote about the 2021 heat dome, during which I was 36 weeks pregnant with Nellie. And I really have to mention that whenever I remember it because
Mhm.
being extremely pregnant when it's 117 degrees outside is I'm not proud of it, but it was something that happened to me.
I
And,
was I was also pregnant during that heat
oh
dome.
my gosh, how pregnant were
Mhm.
you?
About halfway through my pregnancy with our second, my son, who's 4 now. And does your home have air conditioning?
No.
No.
We went to my mom's house
nor
who
does
had
mine.
air conditioning, like central air, and it struggled to to keep up with that heat. I mean, it was probably 80 something inside of her house, but then we'd step outside and I felt like my skin was gonna come off.
Yeah, like my
We
nose, like breathing
Yeah, it
was
hurt.
hard. Like
Yeah.
my mucus membranes, whatever
we
they are.
bought
Like
remember you this was kind of the same for you guys up in Portland. Remember the like August 2020 fires?
Yes.
And yeah. So we bought a like window air conditioner during that time because we couldn't go outside because of the fires.
Yeah.
And like school was canceled and stuff. So we were just hanging out in our apartment. We bought one of those giant like ones that look like a refrigerator with like a Ghostbusters hose coming out of it.
Yeah.
But we haven't needed it since.
That was a dark week. I mean, that was
Yeah.
like we couldn't go outside. We already couldn't like be in other people's spaces. Like we went from like I felt that was hard. That
Yeah,
was really hard.
preschool had just opened and then it closed again. And I remember we bought a new car. I bought a car on the day that the sky was black and the sun was red in Oakland.
Yeah.
I bought a larger car and I was
to have
like,
another place to hang out at.
yeah, we were going to go to Portland for a month, actually.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
by the time we started packing the car, the smoke was in Portland.
Yeah, it sure
And then we pivoted to Montana where our friends live. And then they sent us a picture of the sky there. And we
Mhm.
flew on September 11th, 2020 to Boston for 2 weeks
Oh wow.
to get away from the smoke.
Oh dang.
And I mean, your book, Kaitlyn, is so much about these like the holding these two things of like the fear and the apocalyptic feeling and the kind of tenderness of family and the hope of being around these young people. And like that day was the pinnacle
Yeah.
of that for me.
Well, let's introduce this book. So, Kaitlyn is here because she has a new book that's coming out, and it's called Little Apocalypses: Essays on Motherhood, Climate Change, and Hope at the End of the World. So, and when is it coming out, Kaitlyn? Remind me the exact.
April 14th.
Okay, so when this podcast airs, it'll be like 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
You can still pre-order, which
You
just
can still
feels
pre-order.
special. Like you
Um,
go pre-order that really helps authors, actually. I just want to say
It
like the
does.
pre-orders like predict things and tell everyone they're cool. And it also feels pretty special to get a book on pub day.
It's true.
Putting that out
And you
there.
get your
Yeah.
little notification email and you forgot you got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get a present for your future
It's a
self.
surprise gift. You
Yeah.
will be delighted when you
Yeah.
get to the mailbox.
So, Kaitlyn, your book, both Sarah and I loved it. And it's
Thank you.
so kind
It's
of
so
like
good.
kaleidoscopic and narrow all at
Mm.
once is how it felt to me. And I took so many notes and I scribbled down so many quotes. And all the books that you reference in it, which are now in my to read pile, which is like, I mean, I hope you'll share like a photo or a list, like a reading list or something, because it's so,
Mm.
I want to just now read everything that you read. So there's so many moments of discovery in your book, but one of my favorite things about it was, and kind of like that I think will stay with me for a long time, are all of these little phrases that you gathered and kind of almost seem to build the book around.
Hmm.
And there's one I want to talk about in particular first, but I just want to share first a few examples of these concepts and phrases that you explore. So I was struck by muscular hope, worldly embeddedness,
Hmm.
maternal eco distress, the concept of the mother tree, maternal time as separate from like our kind of everyday experience of time, the concept of ecological compassion, apocalyptic mindfulness,
Hmm.
limited agency, and then the concept of is it green third shift or third green shift? No, I can't.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's third green shift.
This is not a test.
But I
Okay.
always get it like
Right? Like,
I can't hold it because
yeah.
right, because it's like the second shift, but then it's
right.
third.
You're
So,
modifying the third shift. I don't know.
yeah. So if there's one of those that you really want to talk about, feel free. The one that I really want to dig into first that I've been thinking about a lot and talking to friends about
Mm.
since reading your book is that one, The Third Green Shift.
Yeah, well, first, that's such a lovely list to hear back. Like, thank you so
Oh,
much for reading through it. If I may, I think I'd love to talk about maternal eco distress, since I think
which
it's a
we talked about on this podcast last time you were here.
Did we?
Yeah, that
Even though we were
paper.
talking about hobbies?
So maybe it was after we stopped recording. I
It's
I
Okay.
talked to you about that paper.
Yes, the Coral Lab. You
Yes,
pointed me in that direction.
because I was like, this is
Yeah,
so interesting. And it is.
it
Yeah.
is.
Please talk.
And yeah, I think it's a useful way into the book. And it's a concept that brought such relief to me the first time I heard it. Like to have a name for what I was experiencing in early motherhood and to know that
Mm.
I wasn't alone in experiencing it. So, maternal eco distress comes from the work of Dr. Allison C. Davis, who is a therapist and researcher of maternal mental health. And as you know, she works with Dr. Arlie Athan at the Cora Lab. And together they investigated the mental health impacts of the climate crisis on new mothers. And I think you and many of your listeners are probably familiar with the term matrescence, which, like adolescence, is like that major life transition and the massive shift in identity that people go through when they become mothers. And that experience can affect every aspect of a person's life. And one of the ways that it does so is that it can kind of open you up to these like big philosophical questions. And
Yeah.
for me, in my experience of becoming a mother, those questions I was drawn to were really quite existential in nature. Like, not only did I feel like I have this like life that I'm responsible for, which is just wow, very existential, but also just grappling with the reality of raising a child who's growing up on a planet I know to be imperiled. And in one of the early essays in the book, I write about the maternal eco distress I experienced in pregnancy and in postpartum. I was pregnant with my firstborn, our daughter, in 2018 when the UN released its climate change report on the impacts of 1.5 degrees of warming. And it's like since been called like the Doomsday Report. And it called on governments to make like rapid, far-reaching, and like unprecedented changes to every aspect of life. And headlines were like, the planet has till 2030 to stem catastrophic climate change. So I'm like in my third trimester and like counting on my fingers, like to do the math of how old my child will be in 2030, just 12, not that old. And
Yeah.
even though I was like a person who composted and took the bus or the bike to campus where I was teaching at the time, or like doing small lifestyle changes and voting for pro-climate candidates, like I just was hit with this urgency, this fear and this grief that like the climate clock is ticking and I have to take action. But like as a new parent, I had such a like a narrowed scope of capacity for making change and taking action. Like I was just like excited to take a shower. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes, I
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, I totally
Yes.
missed that report because Griffin was born in December of 2017. And
Okay.
so I think I was like, head under a rock.
Yeah. And it didn't let up like postpartum, then I'm like breastfeeding and doom scrolling through some of the wildfire smoke that you mentioned. Globally, we've just seen disaster after disaster. My own community has experienced heavy rainfall and flooding, extreme heat, smoke. So enter maternal eco distress, the term that Dr. Allie Davis has proposed with Dr. Athan. And it names how becoming a mother can intensify environmental concerns. You're reflecting on the world that you're nurturing for your child. And for new parents, this can understandably cause mental health risks, like especially if a person is isolated or doesn't have enough support in their caregiving. It can drive people to really toward burnout through pursuing like perfectionistic and self-sacrificial lifestyle changes.
Yeah, that was such
Basically
an
just
interesting piece of it when you were talking about
yeah.
like the effort that moms go through to do the cloth diapers and
Oh, or
Yeah.
to just like evaluate the purchases you're making for this
Yeah.
baby. And you're like, does this have plastic in it? And like, what crib protector is
Yep.
best for this or that? And like, when sustainability becomes another standard you're worried about,
Yep.
it
So
exacerbates all the new problems parents
sometimes I
face.
find myself on the like seventh hour of trying to find something used,
And
like
then you
on
get
Facebook
up, you just
Marketplace, being
yeah.
like,
100%.
I just need to buy a new radio or whatever.
Right.
Like, I have,
Yes.
this is crazy.
The amount of time it takes to find
Mm,
secondhand or sustainable options.
huh.
And so then that's the green third shift, right?
Right.
That time,
Yes.
that effort, that
Hmm.
mental load of like and decision making. I mean, I think about how it like increases your decision fatigue like
Right.
exponentially when you're kind of adding that factor and right the guilt of like if I buy new clothes for the kids or if I can't find used shoes that fit that
In the
they'll
right
Yep.
wear.
size. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really like when mom guilt and climate guilt combines, or like maternal anxiety and climate anxiety, like it comes together in a way that can really, turn up the heat and put the pressure on new parents. But the one thing that Dr. Davis and Dr. Athan say is that it can also be a really positive thing to experience
Mm,
this shift in matrescence. It can lead new parents to shift from a more anthropocentric or person-centered worldview to a more ecocentric or planet-centered worldview. And so if a person receives support, if they're not isolated, if there's, an equitable division of labor in the household, like this could all lead to positive shifts, not just pressure.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's such an I'm thinking about it wasn't related to climate change, but after when Griffin was about 5 months old, um, there was, families were being split up at the border.
Mhm.
Thankfully, that's resolved. Um, and anyway, I was like, I had a lot of postpartum anxiety and encountering that, I mean, I was just like in tears. I was totally like couldn't handle the feel. It was like I felt it in my body. And I organized this bake sale through my husband's like work. I reached out to one of his colleagues and she was like, let's do it together and maybe we could match it. And I reached out to friends and then we raised, it was like $5,000, but it was like a place to put my energy. And there were people there who were willing to do it with me. And um it was so good to channel that anxiety and depression into action. And I felt actually like even though I was so tired and I was breastfeeding, it's like I actually had learned from having a baby that you learn like, oh, I can do really hard things. Like I can
Mhm.
do amazing things. Um but I was in a supportive community and so I had a place to put that energy. But well, so I would love to hear more about kind of um you know the idea that you write okay, so you write that as mothers, cynicism isn't an option. But you also really examine how realistic it is to have hope in this climate moment and like how can we have hope or what is it delusional to have hope and of course as mothers we want to give our children hope but I just feel like you explore um that question in such a nuanced way. Um, and I really appreciate that. I mean, so you share really scary statistics. For example, that the extinction rate for amphibians is 45,000 times the expected rate. I think I
Like
underlined that like 8
like,
times.
just hearing you say that, like, every impulse in me wants to go back and like, "Is that true? Like, surely that can't be true."
Can't be.
I'm sure someone checked it.
I did.
It seems crazy. So, but you interrogate what kind of hope it's possible to have and whether it's possible to approach parenting and caregiving as climate action. Um, so, where are you with this question today? Kind of, you write also you use the phrase truth without trauma. Like, where are you in this dance?
That's such a great question. And thank you for asking because I think it gets at the heart of the book. And I just want to acknowledge that thinking about and talking about climate change can feel really frightening and overwhelming because it is. And so many of us are already experiencing or have experienced its impacts firsthand. So it's easy to become overwhelmed, and I've tried to be thoughtful throughout the book in terms of how and when I present information that might provoke difficult climate emotions. Um, and I think there's maybe an impulse to try to like rush through those emotions
Mhm.
that are difficult and to just get to the hope, to be like seeking reassurance that in the end everything's going to be okay and
Mm,
we can just like get back to business as usual and carry on with trying to make it through the day.
Mhm.
Um, but activist Greta Thunberg says that hope must be earned. And moral philosopher Elizabeth Cripps adds that to earn hope, we must first face reality. And so in the book, I've really tried to kind of like come alongside the reader, be like, we can look at this together. Like we can face this mess that we're in together. Hope is a tricky thing to talk about. Something I realized, like while writing the book, is that everybody who talks about hope kind of apologizes for it,
Mhm, mhm.
or like,
Yes, yes. I feel like you have to, right? You're like, "Oh, sorry
yes,
to, like,
yeah, I don't want to
be
bring
all
that up.
hope," you know?
Yeah, and they do so like reluctantly, or they attach an
mm,
adjective to it, or try to redefine it in some way. Which makes sense. It's understandable. We're wanting to make it clear that by hope, we're not talking about toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing or that like annoying brand of American optimism and progress, but like uh, Joanna Macy, the Buddhist philosopher of ecology, calls it active hope.
Mhm.
Marine biologist Diana Elizabeth Johnson calls it catalytic hope.
mm,
And journalist Krista Tippett calls it muscular hope. So these are really strong, active, not wishy-washy concepts. The definition I'm most drawn to comes from Rebecca Solnit's book, Hope in the Dark. And she writes that hope, like love, means taking risks. It's being vulnerable to loss. It's accepting that the future is uncertain and that we can still take a part in shaping it. And she compares hope to an emergency axe, like the kind that like
Yeah.
firefighters use to break down doors.
mm.
So
Mhm.
um, I have come to think about hope as a tool and a force for change. And so, something I'm really clear about in the book is that I'm not here to police anyone's feelings. Like, I would never judge anyone for feeling hopeless. Like, I feel despair too. Like, when I read the news about anything these days on my phone, I just like want to throw it across the room. Like, or fall apart. So I'm not here to talk anyone out of their feelings. Like whatever you're feeling about climate change is normal. Is probably an appropriate response to the crisis. You're not alone in feeling it. I just have come to think about hope as not a feeling, but a part of the struggle for change. And I should pause and say, I'm wary of talking about hope as a person who possesses many privileges and is raising children in the global north. But I'm just as wary of giving myself over to despair, which is
Yeah.
also a function of privilege.
Yes. Yeah, that's a
Uh,
really good point.
Mhm.
the Buddhist teacher and activist Lama Rod Owens says that those of us who are loudest about how we are doomed are like usually those of us who've never had to participate in collective struggles.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
I have a I've been thinking about something to that end in reading your book. And that is kind of the connections I see between a lot of the themes you're talking about and the disability world. Like you talked at the top about motherhood, kind of this climate grief as a mother, kind of turning into activism. And I think a lot of, disabled parents of disabled kids talk about kind of these stages of kind of grief and confusion and
Mhm.
denial, and ultimately for a lot of them, advocacy. And then there's this other piece. There's a disabled ecologist and artist named Sonora Taylor. I don't know if you've seen her work, but she has a book called Disabled Ecologies that came out
Mm.
a year or
Mhm.
two ago. And let me see. I am just like nowhere near as smart as she is, but I'll try to see if I can summarize,
Please.
what she's saying. One of the things she's talking about is that, well, that the disabled world and the disabled community has a lot to teach the rest of the world about dealing with climate change. So that's kind of that first piece connected to this piece about who knows about collective action, right? It is our marginalized communities a lot, right? And they have history with that. And they, in many ways, have been forced to do the grieving that a lot of privileged people don't have to do in understanding that their life will not be perfect, right?
Mhm.
And she also kind of talks about how relating to nature, relating to the planet as if as soon as it's kind of injured and harmed, it we have no use for it, is
Mm.
kind of ableist, right? Of
Mhm.
course, we want our planet to be healthy, but can we relate to our planet and not turn away from it in its injury, in its
Mhm.
disability, the
Mhm.
way that we should be doing kind of to humans? And I just find so many interesting things in that, like that it provides a window into relating to this world. Because part of my disconnection is kind of the overwhelm, right? And the kind of like, how can I love my world if there's not any birds in it, right? How can I love this kind of dirty street even though I want it to be different?
You don't wanna fall in love
Um
with a frog and then, like, it'll be one of those ones that goes extinct because it's, like,
right,
such an
right.
overwhelming number. You're like, "I better not love any frogs." Yeah, no, I'll let Caitlin respond, but yeah,
No,
I think
Sarah, that's beautiful and so profound. I'm glad that you brought that up. Um, I'm thinking as like an educator, we would talk about the impact of making accommodations for students with disabilities, and that very often these accommodations were not just beneficial to the students with disabilities, but to
Right.
everyone. And I think we see
Mhm.
that as parents, like curb cuts are great for people who use mobility devices like wheelchairs, but they're also great for parents with strollers. And um, so I think there's a real opportunity for solidarity there between those communities. And I just keep coming back to as I worked on the book, like parenting is not sustainable in our society. Like it's just not. Or we're not set up, as you said earlier, to care about mothers and to care about children. And I think those same forces that make parenthood feel really hard for all of us, but for some more than others, certainly depending on whatever identities you might hold. Those same forces are exacerbating the climate crisis,
Mm.
and like it's all. I mean, you want to talk about it together because it's all connected because it is.
yeah, I'm thinking about, like, Katie Beck, who was on our show, and I just think about her work all the time in building child-friendly cities, and, um, really those cities are climate friendly too
Mm-hmm.
because her one of her biggest concerns is air quality, for kids because they breathe,
Mm-hmm.
I think, 4 times more they take in,
Mm-hmm.
like, 4 times more air than we do, just in little lungs, and they're right at exhaust pipe height,
Mm-hmm.
and, um, she also would say that building a child-friendly city or an infant-friendly city benefits everyone. It benefits the elderly, it benefit and thinking about how true that is of climate too. It's like all of it works together, right? Like you make
Mm-hmm.
caregivers' lives easier. It involves things that have this kind of wide spectrum of positive impact.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want kind of thinking about caregivers. I wrote down two quotes that kind of circle this concept a little bit. And I would love to have you just like speak more about them. So first I'll read the
Sure.
quotes and then maybe you can kind of explore them a little bit. So first, you write that caring for my young children wasn't a fairy tale, but it was a portal through which I was reintroduced to the everyday enchantments of the natural world, which really resonated with me. Like, there's nothing like going for a walk with a toddler. Um, I never have known my block better than when I was walking with like a 2-year-old.
Mhm.
And then you quote Italian philosopher Elena Pulcini. Is that right?
Nailed it.
Okay, good. So she wrote, care can become the revolutionary value to counter the challenges threatening humanity and to build an ethic of the future. So I'm thinking about these two together and kind of, um, we talk a lot about the revolutionary power of like caregiving, everyone who's kind of in this writer space that I think Sarah and I occupy and that you occupy, talk a lot about this. Lucy Jones literally, I mean, matrescence really is a battle cry, to basically tear down like our existing, uh, ways of being and start fresh with, from a maternal perspective. So I'm kind of curious. I often get overwhelmed when I feel so idealistic about that, like, because we live in a dark time politically.
Mhm.
So kind of, can you speak a little bit about those ideas and how you hold those ideas in this kind of very depressing moment where it feels like things are really going backward in a lot of ways?
Yeah. Right.
So
So,
yeah.
one thing I've had the joy of witnessing as my children have grown is the really beautiful and special relationship that they have with the natural world. Like, young children are so full of wonder and eager to pay attention to other creatures in a way that adults often are not.
Mm.
Like, even very tiny ones. Like, you mentioned going on a walk with a toddler. We have almost collided, all of us, like on our bikes before, because my kids just had to stop
Yeah.
to like usher some slugs and snails, off the sidewalk in the rain. Um, and so they relate to the natural world with such gentleness and curiosity and care. And one of the things I'm desperate to do as a parent is to resist the cultural forces that would have me parent that out of them,
Mhm.
to uh, to force them into a way of relating to the natural world in a more rational and Western worldview, one that's been so
Mm.
shaped by colonization and capitalism. And what I want for my children is to know the earth is more than a natural resource, but to feel themselves as in reciprocal relationship to the more than human world. And so part of how I'm trying to do that, like both in my life and in the book, is thinking about language and storytelling. And in a sense, like one of my projects I feel is to reimagine the stories I'm telling my children. Like, can I revise and rewild the stories I'm passing on to them about the world and our place in it in
Hmm.
ways that shape their imaginations for change? Um, a really concrete example of that is that the Indigenous botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer, who is the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, which is a truly life-changing book, talks about how we need to learn the grammar of animacy, which is a refusal to speak of other beings, of plants, trees, animals, other life forms, rivers even, to refuse to speak of them as objects, but to
Mm.
instead learn to speak in ways that ascribe personhood and rights, and to understand that these are beings that are not just acted upon, but that act in the world and have agency and are so worthy of our respect and care. And so you might say to a child, the trees are waving at you, or the river swims by. And that might like sound weird to our ears and take some getting used to,
Hmm.
but the effect of that is that it disrupts this hierarchy where humans are privileged above other species. And that hierarchy, not coincidentally, is also tied up with all of the other hierarchies that say that
Mhm.
some humans
Mhm.
take privilege over others.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
I'm
so,
thinking of Sonora Taylor again,
yeah.
who writes about how we have this hierarchy of animals in that the ones that seem more human, like,
Mm,
apes and chimpanzees and stuff, we attribute more intelligence and more value to them, you
mhm,
know? And we take care in how we treat them and what we test on them, right? And we'd be
mhm.
sad if they died, but like a chicken, forget about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that those it's really interesting to think about how those natural world kind of hierarchies are reflections of the ones in the human world.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the shift in grammar, it brings these beings into our circle of moral responsibility. Just like another way of saying our circle of care,
Yeah, I
which
love that.
brings us, like, if you want to talk about care, and Pulcini is a care ethicist, and in my research, I've come to see how an ethics rooted in care has so much to contribute to finding our way through like this crucial moment that we're in.
Hmm.
One of the devastating aspects of the climate crisis is that it is just a gross injustice. The the nations that are most developed are the highest emitters of greenhouse gases, and the least developed countries who are least to blame are bearing the greatest burden of the effects and have the least resources with which to do it. And UNICEF has called the climate crisis a child's rights crisis,
Hmm. Yeah.
because of how it disproportionately affects the world's children, in part because of their developing brains and bodies, like in all of the ways that you mentioned, Miranda,
Yeah.
about their lungs and about how air pollution affects them.
And heat,
So,
like I
yes.
think the Center on the Developing Child has been sending a lot of like I love getting their emails, and they've been working a lot on heat,
Hmm.
and kids and how high heat impacts them and,
Mm.
um,
Well,
just how dangerous that
a
can
lot
be
more
for
of
them,
that
and I
coming.
think I know, and, I'm sure that we've all experienced, our kids getting, like, dehydrated or overheated. My son went to a forest preschool, and, there was one day when I haven't really seen him like that, it just can happen so quickly to small
Hmm.
bodies, and,
Hmm.
they can get dehydrated so fast, and I think as parents, like, there's just a learning curve there where you're like, "Okay, like, what does it mean that it's 105 outside?" It's like it
Yeah.
doesn't just mean, like, we need to
Mm.
get AC, it means just learning a whole new thing.
Hmm. And then there's like every aspect of life, like school disruptions from disasters. Like the statistics on the amount of school days that children are missing because of climate disasters is astounding. So I think as parents
Hmm.
and caregivers, like this should move us to act and to do so cooperatively as global citizens. In Alyssa Strauss's book about caregiving, When You Care, The Unexpected Magic of Caring for Others,
Yeah.
there's this chapter about Darwin's legacy. And she kind of seeks to set the record straight where, like, we all think of Darwin and think survival of the fittest, but that's not a phrase he actually used,
Hmm.
even though it's associated with his work. A phrase he actually, in fact, used in his writing was the survival of the most sympathetic, by which he meant
Huh.
that species that are skilled at caring for their offspring, it's crucial to survival. It's an evolutionary advantage to care. And I think that is still true. And I think that caring for each other, for the more than human world, and acting cooperatively are like still just our best hope out of this mess.
Well, you sort of, you're kind of getting there yourself. I just do want to talk about some of the activist mothers that you spoke to from organizations like Eco Madres and Science Moms and Climate Action Families Seattle, who like are acting out their belief that mothers are uniquely positioned for climate activism. Um, you write that they are positioned that way, um, partly because they are a group that is often felt to have moral authority in their communities,
Mhm.
which I think is so interesting because it's a way to, it almost feels like it reclaims certain narratives about mothers, about like, how does she do it all? How does she, kind of we put us on a pedestal, and it seems like it's a way to kind of grab that pedestal and be like, "Okay, so so listen to me." But
Uh,
tell me about,
yeah.
those conversations and what those people are doing and, um, you know, kind of the impact that it's having.
Really excited you brought this up because this was hands down the best part of writing the book,
Mm,
was speaking to mothers who are climate scientists and climate activists and climate psychologists and are doing so much work to move climate justice forward. It was truly the most life affirming and energizing part of writing the
hmm,
book. And so I'm glad you gave a shout out to those organizations. Um, I think the first point I want to make is that this is not new. I want to emphasize that these parent led organizations are building on the legacy, especially of women of color who have been organizing since the 1970s and 1980s around environmental justice. So they
hmm,
really kind of have their roots in groups like Mothers of East Los Angeles and other groups who've opposed things like pipelines through Black and Brown communities. Um, but these parent-led organizations, like if you just for a minute stop and think about like what an environmentalist looks like,
Right.
the first person who comes to mind is probably not a mom on a playground. And yet, like these mother activists I spoke to are doing their organizing on playgrounds. Instead of sit ins, they're planning like play ins with their toddlers and their kids. And they are showing up to protests with diaper bags full of snacks and bubbles and activities. And so I think it's something powerful happens when moms talk to other moms as trusted messengers, when parents talk to other parents about climate change. It is personal. It becomes about working together to protect our children and our community from pollution and to give them a really stable climate in which to live and grow. These groups are doing super cool things too, like working with school districts to convert bus fleets to electric from diesel and to improve HVAC systems in schools so that our kids are breathing cleaner air when they're learning. They are also like taking on the plastics industry and trying to support bills that would mean that corporate polluters pay to clean up their own messes.
hmm.
And,
Yes.
they've got these really great lines too, like, like moms teach kids to clean up their messes. Like we've got to teach polluters to clean up theirs.
Mhm.
And so that they kind of have like a sense of humor about it too.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting to think of mothers too as kind of I'm thinking about, like, in Portland in 2020 when we had the
mhm,
protests that summer, there was, like, this wall of moms that kind of went
mhm,
down to the protests that were getting quite violent, and, I think the whole idea was, like, to use the way that they're kind of inherently not threatening,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know, um, as a power, um instead of taking it as a weakness, sort of trying to use it as a power. Um,
One of the activists I spoke to named that and said, especially as an organization of predominantly white women, we can take certain actions that just don't read as aggressively, especially like when we show up with our kids. That
Mm.
is a lever that people can pull. But then maybe there's listeners who are like, I'm not really even great at recycling. So how am I going to
Yeah.
be an
Yeah.
environmental activist? Like I
right.
and to that, uh an author, Mary DeMacher, who wrote like at the Parent's Guide to the Climate Revolution, said something
Mm.
like, at this stage in the climate crisis, if you have 3 minutes, please just like call your representatives and throw the peanut butter jar in the trash. Like, it's great if you can do both, but right now we really need parents to take that love that they feel for their children and use it as like a motivator to take collective action. And I think, the other thing I want to say about this um, is that you've kind of mentioned like a little bit like the super mom idea and like uh it really these organizations are trying to say like no you don't have to be a super mom. You
Mhm.
just have to like join in with what other people are already doing. And they really make it easy and accessible to kind of plug in and find your role.
Yeah, I have some of that anxiety,
Yeah.
listening anytime someone suggests I do anything really.
Just do
Like,
something
but
just do something more.
I'm
Something
like,
more to add to your life.
I'm not gonna moisturize. But thinking about I have a friend who, I was talking to, what are you gonna do this weekend? She's like, oh well, I'm taking my son on the train to Sacramento to go to a climate protest. Um, and I just felt this like inadequacy, like I suck because like I just want to hang out at home on the weekends. And like I would find that really exhausting. And like my kid doesn't like big crowds. And how would I do that? And so I think obviously it's like, well, there's multiple access points.
Always.
But it's interesting how we're always kind of dealing with this line between, squeezing more out of ourselves versus saying like, hey, in a really grounded way, I want to show up.
Yeah. Right, it's
Yeah, but
tricky. I mean, I think we like individual action, right? Like not to belittle it, but like what is really my understanding is like what is really driving climate change are these like, kind of like regulatory issues and corporate um I don't know, greed. But so as an individual, like kind of to almost I wonder if it's like a form of climate action to like quit your green third shift and take that energy back so that you could be free to do these things. Be like, okay, I'm not going to stress anymore about my personal, I think about coffee cups. Like this is just like one of the many things, right? And like you just see it every day and you're like, oh my gosh, like standing in line at the coffee shop and doing the math quickly. And you're like, whoa.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and you feel like when I freak out about, yeah, dumping a yogurt thing in the trash instead of recycling because I was too lazy to rinse it, like, is that maybe I could try to not beat myself up
Yeah.
about that, and then I could have a little more mental space to, like, open 5 calls and, like,
Yeah.
call folks and just be like, "Hey, like, I care about the climate."
Yeah. So when I spoke, I got the chance to interview Dr. Allie Davis for a later essay in the book about the third green shift. And basically, her critique of green motherhood is that it, um, it's really tied up in the intensive mothering ideology,
Mhm.
and that it's
Hmm.
both harmful to moms and harmful to the planet because it doesn't actually solve the environmental concerns that mothers are seeking to address with these
You mean
behaviors.
buying bamboo wipes isn't
I mean,
fixing the climate?
yes, sure. I do it too. Like our breakfast cereal is somehow going to save the chimpanzees.
Right, it has a
Um,
picture on it. It's got the picture
but
right there.
it does. But the problem is that it puts pressure on mothers especially
Hmm.
to essentially become perfectly ethical consumers,
Right.
which already are set up to fail because it is impossible. We're just tied up in this web of suffering no matter what we eat or what we buy or really what we do. And it's ultimately like by fueling this focus on like just cultivating a perfect lifestyle kind of there's this tension between individual and collective action.
Yeah,
Both are important.
yeah.
Anything we can do that keeps carbon out of the atmosphere is beneficial. And, living in the United States, like I'm among the people who most need to change. Like my lifestyle is driving up those numbers. And um I hope that understanding some of these, having language for the third green shift and the greenwashing of motherhood,
Hmm.
maybe take some of the pressure off of moms to make their their caregiving and their household labor perfect, and instead redirect that pressure on governments and corporations who are standing in the way of climate action. And because when I spoke with Dr. Davis, she had this great line. She said, "Moms don't get angry, they get
Yeah.
perfect."
I
And
loved
that
that.
that
Oh.
I
has
wrote that down, like, in big
oh,
letters. I was like, "Oh my god, so
that
true."
that has stayed with me.
Hmm.
And I would like to see us use our anger to organize and to put pressure where we can have the biggest gains. Does that mean I'm off the hook for polluting? Like, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I'm not looking for a free pass. And I think it just means that understanding that the actions that I take in my life are kind of a front line, as Adrienne Marie Brown says, like, but they're not the end goal. Like, it takes all of us
Mm.
working together to make the changes that we need. And like small changes are certainly part of that. She speaks to this in Emergent Strategy, but really we need to also be choosing action that is amplified by the work of many people. And I think the final thing I want to say about maternal activism is that research shows that adolescents and young adults are really distressed about their future. It is
Yeah.
having such an impact on their mental health. But
Yes.
one protective factor is having their adults take action on their behalf. So it is really important for our children to see us taking action. And something I'm very careful not to say in the book is like, my kids give me hope.
Mhm.
Or maybe you've heard like this one, like, this is the generation, though, that's going to solve the climate crisis.
I hate that. So
Yes.
so terrible. Just dump it on them.
Yes, I feel very strongly like that. Maybe that's true. It would be so great
It'd be
if they
cool.
did solve it. That would be awesome. Like,
But I
go
don't have
for
a
it.
problem
But
with that happening.
no, please, by all means, I'm supportive. But it shouldn't be their responsibility.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
should not even be
And an
our
excuse for
generation's.
us.
Yeah, welcome to
It
the
shouldn't even
world to
be
solve climate
yes.
change. Yeah.
But it shouldn't even be our generation's responsibility. The fact is, the science was settled. We had the chance to solve this in the 80s, and it's because of the fossil fuel industry and special interests that we did not. And so something I want to make very clear about all of this is that the climate crisis is an intergenerational injustice. It was done to us. It's being done to our children. And so I think they really just need to see their adults doing something about it. And you know, when I see children committing themselves to activism and giving their childhoods over to making change, I'm like so moved. Children's like Greta Thunberg and Aji Piper and Jamie Margolin, who themselves are like now adults. They're not even children anymore, and still we have so far to go. They're incredible and they're changing the world. And I think when children become activists, it's because adults have abdicated their responsibility. And so we owe them our gratitude, but we also owe them our solidarity.
It's wonderful
Amen.
because, you know, I think that it can be hard to find time in our schedules for ourselves. This is something I struggle with, where I'm like, if I want to do something, I won't make time for it. If it is for my child, I will make time for it. You know, if I like want to go to a climate protest, but it's for me, I may not make time for it. But if I am worried that my child is having climate anxiety and I think it might help them, then I'll make time for it. You know, like, so I think that having that, you know, our kids light a fire in us. And I think to let that be our fuel, you know.
I
is
spend
great.
a lot of time in rooms where people are talking about how stressed out kids are and the child and adolescent mental health crisis. And very rarely are people talking about, people will mention they're stressed out about climate change, but about kind of climate action as a intervention for that. So I find that very powerful.
And I think there's more forms of action than just protest. Like some of the things that I do with my children, they come from my values, sure, but also my interests, my personality, the things I like doing, the things that feel good to me to do. Like in the book, I talk a lot about biking with my kids as a form of alternative transportation. And that's because I like biking. It is It's fun for me to bike. It's fun to bike as a family. We live in a community that has great biking infrastructure. Like
Yeah.
Portland, we kind of have like our neighborhood bike bus to get to the public school. Like these are things that are fun and that feel good. And they're also a different way forward. And our children can be part of it. And it doesn't always have to be like heavy and serious and scary.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, you write a lot about camping in the book, and I think, kind of the pleasure of valuing the natural world, like, and that's pleasurable for me and for the kids, and that's time to it checks so many boxes, kind of, um, to just get out into nature, and
Yeah.
to let them love it, and not be afraid to love it.
And to be part of acts of restoring our local environment. Like
Yeah.
my children, one of the summer camps that they go to um, is sponsored by our local salmon enhancement project, and they learn about watershed health and what we can do to protect wild salmon population. And then, like we watch these little salmon fry grow in a tank in the library, and we then go to the creek and like
Yeah.
participate in releasing
Is
them.
this a
Like these are
Pacific Northwest
beautiful
thing?
things.
That's
Yeah,
happening in
It
our
is.
library too, where we
that's
like there's little salmon eggs and the kids have been watching them, and then I think the
we
5th
don't have
graders
salmon here.
no salmon eggs
But
in
we do
the
have there's a neighborhood tree planting event once a year. It's like I live in like a very urban environment.
Sure.
There's lots of plants and stuff, but uh
There's plants.
but and
We have plants.
I want someone
And
else to
probably
take my kids camping. I want them to have that experience. But there are lots of little pockets for this and kind of urban versions of that too, just planting something and watching it grow, you know.
Yeah. Probably there are lots of front yard gardens there.
Totally.
And
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, there's like a little area under the freeway near us where like a neighbor has started a GoFundMe to make a little tire garden, and she's made these
cool.
tire planters that she's painted to put plants in. And I was hoping we could do like a helping her out. But we're also like on Saturday there's a community garden day at my kids' school, where people can come help plant things and tend the garden, and
And it's fun
it's
to learn
something.
about like pollinator. Like there are fun like we put up a little bird feeder and like trying to build a habitat so more birds will
Yeah, but you
come.
got to
Like
watch for rats.
I know. I
Yeah,
put it in a
that's what
not
I've
rat
spent a lot of
place.
time on Bird Feeder Reddit.
No, I know.
I
My
know.
mom had a rat issue. Sorry, mom, to out you, but she had a rat issue with hers. That got pretty gnarly, but I think mine is in a good place. Also,
Good,
we have a
send me
lot of
your notes.
coyotes. A lot of
Um,
coyotes around here. So,
Kaitlyn,
w
I'd love to hear any culture recommendations you have before we have
Sure.
to jump off.
Okay, great.
It's always just such a great opportunity to mine the brains of, fellow moms about what you're enjoying or what your family's enjoying these days.
Yeah. Um, are you watching The Pit?
I
no.
don't like human bodies
Okay.
and their
Fair.
and is that
Their
so I hear it's not
misadventures.
for me.
Okay. Well,
But is it
I
awesome?
mean, sure. Yeah, probably not for you. There is a lot of medical gore. But it's the one show that I'm watching right now, and
I
to
heard there was
me,
a measles
it's
plotline that was
there
very
was a measles
political.
plot line. Yeah, I
Ooh.
mean, all of it is in its own way because um, every aspect of healthcare is impacted by social issues.
Yeah.
And yet, these like skilled medical providers just show up and they give such powerfully beautiful care. Like it just
Mm.
restores my faith in humanity to watch these people working in an underfunded environment and just treating every human that comes through the door with such respect and dignity
Mhm.
and competence. It is a beautiful thing. I love to see it. So that's one.
Maybe I'll try it like when I get a shot, I put an ice pack on the back of my neck. This is a
Okay.
trick that nurse
Did you
taught
get
me.
your flu shot?
I don't maybe. No.
It's okay.
But
Next year.
but I could do that while I watch an episode of The Pit and see if my vasovagal response calms down enough to get me this sweet entertainment and care modeling.
It is really just It's beautiful. And then one show we've been weirdly watching as a family, which is like not current and very maybe unexpected, is It Cake?
Oh, we love
I
in
hear
this
that the
house,
children
we
love
believe in
this
Mikey Day,
show.
and we have watched every Is It Cake season, every holiday special.
Spin-off, yeah.
It's
Is
heaven.
it?
We love it.
Is there like a competition element, or is it
Yes.
just like fun?
It's a competition, but there's so much love.
Okay.
It's like it's
Was
the
it like Bake
sweetest
Off kind of
competition.
vibes?
It's like that level of love. Yes.
And kids, but kids.
No, it's not
Or
kids.
kids just like it.
Kids just
It's
like
adults.
It's
But like my
adults.
kids are 7 and 4, and it kind of feels like the first show that we can all watch together that is like programmed for all of us.
Yeah, that's
so
around when the
nice.
first season came out. It was like the age of my kids when we started watching it. And you
We're
get to
loving
watch
it.
Mikey Day grow as like a host and it like and like get comfortable. Like at some point very
With that knife.
Yeah, with the knife. But also like with the human aspect of it and like his role as kind of like a leader and a holder of this community. And like there's some point, I think in the end of like season 2, where he just, I think completely organically, I think maybe when like the last person gets kicked off or whatever, is just like, I love you guys. I love you.
No.
I love you. And it's like it is so natural and so sincere and like you believe it and you're just like, I don't, yeah. It's
an extremely joyful show.
Sounds amazing.
Human connection. Yeah.
It sounds delightful.
The last thing I'll recommend is just animal facts. Just animal facts.
Is there like a book that you love about?
So, I mean, I feel like that's the thing with like every kid's book in the nonfiction section. It's just like everywhere I look, animal facts. And my daughter listens to the Yoto Daily while falling asleep.
Yes, I love Yoto Daily.
I do too.
We do sometimes and then sometimes not. And like, I'm always trying to get my kids to listen, but it's like, you have to be cool, right? It's like, oh, do you guys want to listen to Jake this morning? Like, or,
I
do
not know what you guys are talking about, but this sounds cute.
The Yoto is a screen-free audio device that I love, and the kids love it.
So it's like the Yoto player.
Yeah.
And the daily, little daily radio show.
Cute.
It's like a podcast. I don't know, it's like 8 minutes long or something.
That's
and the
cute.
host is this guy, Jake, and he's just like the best. They did this cute advent calendar thing.
But on Wednesdays, are there not?
Oh, no. Yeah, it's like,
sorry.
No, that it's like, so he does like things where it's like through the week you can follow, like sometimes it's a riddle, like it's like you'll get a piece of the riddle every day. And then on Friday you get that conclusion, or like in December, they did this verbal advent calendar where you got a word every day to tell a story.
That's super fun.
It's really fun. And then, they do
the radio.
They do animal facts on Wednesdays.
Oh.
They do all these animal facts.
Oh, my kids would love that.
And Friday's
my
jokes. Friday's great.
My son just came home with this book. It was like called Sharks, A Mighty Bitey History.
Oh, yeah.
Cute. And like one of the facts in the book is that sharks, get this, they predate trees.
Oh, wow.
And fire.
No.
Whoa. Hello,
what?
old.
Someone
this
fact
is
check
what I'm
this.
saying. Like animal facts.
I wish there was like a kids radio station, because I've talked about this on the show, but I did try to find it used. It was not an example. That was real. But I finally just broke down and bought a $10 like AM FM little portable radio from Amazon. And I love listening to the radio, but my daughter discovered it. And she's like, I can carry this around and just like put on music whenever I want. Even though she has an old phone that she will listen to Spotify on, she got how nice it is to just like immediately have something and to have it like done for you, to have that surprise.
Well, Yoto has radio. It has
there
music
isn't a
radio.
kids station. She calls the pop radio station the kids station.
I think I'm going to have Yoto,
but it's not.
Send you a Yoto, Sarah, because it has.
They actually
radio.
did. I actually did get a free Yoto, and I gave it away.
Oh no!
The thing about devices is you can't go back. So like I think my kids had different forms of storytellers when they were younger. The one that like you put the little
Oh,
figurine
I hate
on.
those. No
Yeah,
offense to the Tonys or whatever, but I
Tony,
hate
right, right.
those things.
But now my daughter has an old phone and my son has an old computer, and that's where they listen to like their podcasts and stuff. And once you go to Spotify, it's really hard to go back. So I
Mhm.
couldn't get them into the Yoto now. And that is my PSA to parents about technology. Like, we
Yoto
try to
first.
keep it simple. Just keep it as simple as you possibly can, and know that you don't expect your child to ever go back from complex and easy to simple and convoluted and limited.
Well, we can cover this in another episode, but we finally got our tin can phone.
Oh, that's like the
So that's a whole thing.
wireless phone if you don't actually have it like looks
So
like a
it's a phone.
landline.
I mean, it's a landline, but I mean, you could do it through voice over IP. You could like do it yourself. And for a hot second, my husband was like, "I'm just gonna do that," and then I was like, "You know what? They make it really easy. It's $9 a month. I'm gonna just do this," and it's so fun, and the kids are having so much fun. And my
But wait,
son
I don't
has
understand what it is. It's a phone? It's like
it's a phone. It's a phone. It plugs into the wall.
okay.
It's a little phone, but you control who can call it and who they
Mhm.
can call.
Oh,
So
okay.
you have to enter contacts to be like approved.
Got it.
But they've got like their grandma on one speed dial. They've got
Mhm.
grandpa on
Mhm.
speed dial.
Oh,
And I
speed
had to take
dial is
the aunt
smart.
off speed dial because it was like too much because they were trying to call their cousins all the time.
Yeah.
But
We have the
it's
landline,
really
and we have like a list of numbers that my daughter wrote out on a little piece of paper on like a stand.
yeah,
But
I
speed
think
dial would be a good idea
speed
because
dial is kind of
it's
nice.
it's a
And it's
lot
its
for them
own
to get
like
10.
little network and it's been
Oh,
super cute. And it's kind of funny how like so my son's 8 and he has a friend who just got like a phone, like a legit phone.
a
It's
cell
just like
phone,
yeah.
cellular
And
phone. Wow.
it's just one in the whole second grade, just one kid, but and so he started being like, "When am I gonna get a phone?" And that was the first time he'd ever asked, but it was of course because a friend did, and I said, "Well,
Mhm.
you're getting a phone." It's
A
right
tin
here.
can.
It's a landline, but it, like, worked. Like, he was like,
You tricked
I just said,
him.
like, "You have a phone too," and he does have a phone,
Yeah, he does. He
anyway,
does.
it worked for now. It worked for now,
Oh,
I'll
yep.
take it.
That's all you could do. Do you guys
Yeah.
have a
The
landline,
worst
Kaitlyn?
No, but we have our own little, like, network here in Bellingham called, like, Telehamster,
What?
which is like a tin can alternative, and we've thought about getting it. But yeah, the worst lies that I, like, tell my kids are always app-related. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's broken right
It
now."
doesn't
I know,
work.
"No,
iPad
it's not
only works
working
on
right
the
now."
airplane. It
It
doesn't
doesn't
work
work in the
here.
car.
Yeah.
Can't figure it out. I'm sorry."
Yeah, we have a lot of toys that have broken. They don't make noise anymore. You
Oh,
can still
yes.
enjoy them, but unfortunately, they don't make noise anymore.
Because mommy smashed them against the
It
wall.
happens so
Because I
fast.
removed the
Yeah.
batteries.
We snipped the wires. Anyway, well, Caitlin, thank you so much. This was so
Oh,
fun.
thank you.
And I hope
I've loved it.
everyone buys your book because it's really fabulous. I mean,
This book is a
it's
treasure.
it is. It's so
Thank
written
you.
with so much care and it's so thoughtful. And I feel like there's just so much I'll be thinking about for so long. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm such a fan.